So hello. First of all, I'd like to welcome everyone to our department's first Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion annual meeting, and thank you guys for sharing this space with us. Today, we're hosted by the BME DEI Alliance. Many Alliance members had attended and were inspired by the College of Sciences D&I Alliance meeting in November, and we wanted to bring an event like that to our department. We have a link to a recording of that meeting here, and we encourage anyone who's interested in more details about things being done at the college level to watch that meeting once we've shared our slides later. We have several hopes and goals for today's meeting. We want to inform our community members of DEI initiatives going on within and outside of the department that affect BME. We aim to keep DEI work at the forefront of our individual and our organization's minds. We hope to empower everyone to work within their own spheres of influence. And lastly, we'd like to hear from you about any initiatives your organizations are working on that you want to share with our community. Throughout the meeting, I invite you to use the word cloud link that Annie's posted in the chat to share a few words about what DEI means to you and what an inclusive space looks like. Please feel free to submit throughout the meeting, and we'll be sharing these responses at the end of our event. With that, I'd like to welcome Efrain Torres, our department's first Creating Inclusive Cohorts Fellow and a second-year PhD student, to the virtual stage to share his message on the importance of DEI.
Cool. Hi, everyone. As mentioned, my name is Efrain Torres. I'm a second-year PhD student here at the Department of BME, and I'm really grateful to be here today, talking to all of you, celebrating the work that we've done this past year on DEI and the work that we have to come. And really what I'm tasked here to do today is to talk to you about why DEI work is important, why you should think about it on top of the million other things going on in our day-to-day. And really, I'm here to talk to you about why you should care about DEI. Now, there's a lot of different ways I could go about doing this. I could show you the stats that clearly show underrepresentation of minorities in college, academia, industry, really pick your area. Or I could introduce to you the stats of the great things that happen when you increase minority representation, the collaboration, the progress, the innovation. But really, those things are Googleable, and we could all quickly do that on any given day. The argument that I'm going to make today is one that's much simpler, and that's you should care about DEI because it's not fair. It's not fair that the minority group has to fight so much harder and be so much stronger to get here than the majority group. It's not fair that people like myself, my minority colleagues, my neighborhood, my family, my nephews, all have to deal with the normal experiences that to us are normal. Because growing up, my day-to-day was much different from most here. It was filled with neighborhood violence, financial struggles, lack of opportunities, systematic racism, all that manifested itself in very different ways in my day-to-day. Because as a young kid, I didn't even think twice about the violence going on around me, because it was normal. Of course, shootings happened every week. That's what life was to me when I was younger. And of course, you encountered the occasional racist that you just had to brush off. The racist that in high school told me I didn't belong there. I didn't belong there because I was the son of a janitor who dared to apply to a high-ranking high school. But then when I went to college, I learned it wasn't fair, and I learned that it wasn't normal. And I learned why I'm one of the only people from my neighborhood to get this far, and why I'm the only one of my extended family to get here. And that's because society has been systematically removing opportunities from us, oftentimes by not even making us aware of them. Because how could we even dream of becoming engineers, doctors, lawyers, professors, professionals, if we don't even know what they are? Even I didn't really know what an engineer was until maybe my second year undergrad. I got lucky enough that a high school teacher encouraged me and pushed me in this direction, despite others, including my college counselor, who told me to aim lower, told me otherwise. And it's not fair. None of this is fair. So I ask everyone here on a personal note to care because it's not fair, and to care because we do it alone. Because intrinsically, as the minority, we need the majority's help to make change. So please be as involved as you can, do as much as you can. This DI work truly matters, and it pushes us incrementally towards progress. Well, thank you for listening, and I would like to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Brenda Ogle, who will be talking about some of the initiatives going on in the department. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Efrain, for your willingness to share with us today. And thanks to the DEI Alliance for pulling us together. I think the biggest thing is for us to communicate with each other. And this is a wonderful step in that direction. And so I wanted to share with you some of the work that's going on at the department level and also at the field level in biomedical engineering across the nation. So something that we're proud of, a few things that we're proud of actually. The first one comes out of a need that we identified last year together, that it is challenging to maintain consistent effort in our DEI initiatives and our actions. And it's important to be able to put real resources and effort behind that, and also to engage those with appropriate and well-honed skills in this space. And so I'm very excited to say that we will be hiring someone soon in the role of a DEI coordinator, and you'll hear more about the details of that position in upcoming slides. You should know that the department doesn't have resources for new positions, and so I went to our local medical device and biotech community, and they have stepped up to the table to help us fund that position. So this is really a community effort trying to build biomedical engineering and make sure that our DEI efforts succeed and are sustained. Along that same sort of thread is dedicating effort and acknowledging and recognizing effort. And so we have this year defined and described roles, faculty service roles, specifically dedicated to DEI advocacy. And that's being led by Professor Dave Odie and also includes Professors Victor Barocas and Jonathan Sachs. Also, and then leading into field initiatives, there's a groundswell of wonderful activity going on in our field. We recognize the need to coordinate those efforts and to amplify best efforts. And so BOLD stands for Biomedical Engineering Organizations Leading Diversity. And we brought together the president of Biomedical Engineering Society, president of AIMBE, the president of the Council of Chairs, and then the leads for the respective diversity committees for each of those groups. We meet monthly to try to basically just coordinate, bring ideas together and make sure they're being disseminated to everyone. And so two important things that have emerged from BOLD are, one thing is called the Council of Diversity. And the idea is that this group will parallel something called the Council of Chairs, which is essentially all the heads and chairs of BME departments across the nation get together routinely to talk about how to improve our curriculum, improve our field. And now it will include very intentionally a Council of Diversity. So representatives from every department will be gathering routinely, again, to talk about best practices, keep sustained effort, and communicate with each other. This sort of idea was kicked off by an anti-racism summit that was held in January. Again, it was a combined effort, both the Biomedical Engineering Society, AIMBE, a couple of other groups, ASME, ASEE, were involved in planning this. So a real coordinated effort. And the idea was to start getting all departments thinking about where they want to be in the next 5 to 10 years and developing a plan to get there. And that's really what I would like to have happen in our department, is to develop a DEI strategic plan. And by strategic plan, I mean for us to come together and identify where we want to be, what we want our department to look like, and then identify the gaps that are prohibiting us from being there right now. And then putting into place a very intentional timeline and series of events and efforts that will bring us there together. So that's a little summary of what I'm proud of in this past year, what's coming ahead. And then my challenge is maybe something you'll hear repeatedly throughout this presentation, but I really encourage everyone to engage. Think about what you as an individual can uniquely contribute. And what will be happening at the end is we'll be amassing different opportunities that you can engage in to make it easy to participate. And again, to think about how you as a unique individual can contribute. So with that, I would like to pass it on to Professor Dave Odie, who will talk a little bit about college-wide efforts this year.
Yeah, thanks, Brenda, and thanks, Ephraim, for framing this so well and just telling us why it's so important. And it just motivates me to hear that, and I really appreciate it. And I just appreciate the Alliance for organizing this event. And Brenda, for kicking off the, didn't sleep too much last night, for really, putting the resources behind this and allowing us to move forward. So like Brenda, and she came up with it first, I have to admit, my fun fact is I eat raspberries every morning too, but with waffles instead of pancakes. So very different. It's good we have diversity in the department, right, Brenda? So I'll tell you a little bit about the College Alliance in the next few moments here. And I just put the link in there if you want to take a look at it. So like our department, there's also a college level alliance. And it's great to see because there are now 300 plus members of this. We're calling ourselves champions. We view ourselves as people committed within our college in all roles to advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion in our college. And there are different components to that. And just to give one thing that we're proud of, first of all, is this CSE Presidential Postdoctoral Fellowship Program, which is now launched. And what this program is intended to do is to fund up to 2 years of support for postdoctoral fellowships in our college with the intention that the department within which they're hosted would become their academic home as a tenure track faculty member at the completion of that postdoctoral fellowship. So this is a way to increase the diversity of the faculty in our college and create an intentional path for that that's resourced and funded. Here it's funded almost entirely by the college and the Office of Equity and Diversity, with some additional resources required by the department and the faculty mentor. And there's, in addition, a kind of a cohort strategy around this of having 3 fellows per year, at least initially. And with a 2-year residency, then that would ramp up to 6 fellows at steady state who would be able to create a cohort community with programs around it, intentional mentoring from faculty outside the department that's hosting them, so they get a broader perspective, and other resources available to them to help them launch their careers and develop grant writing skills and things like that. So that's underway. The first cohort is being recruited now. And hopefully we'll have 3 outstanding fellows coming to campus next fall, and maybe even one of them would be in BME. And so be on the lookout for people we would recruit to apply for next year. And then deadline next year will be probably around November 1st. We're also working towards a number of other things, but I'll just mention a second one. Is a group of faculty is assessing, review, and considering revising tenure and promotion policy, so-called 712, if you know the jargon within the university. But these documents maybe haven't been looked at ever before from the lens of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that's what this task force is doing. And so it's started in the computer science engineering department, but other departments are interested as well. So that's a second thing that's in motion now. And then lastly, a challenge to the community. If you follow the link that I put in the chat, you can get access to the strategic plan. There are so many different goals in there. There's about 50 goals. 2 of them are listed here above, one of which is launched now. And you could latch onto that and work with other people around something that you're passionate about and help to make it happen. The idea isn't that we wouldn't necessarily do it, but we would catalyze it happening. And so this strategic plan is a document to help us get there. I'd encourage you to become a champion for the college at the college level too, and consider getting involved at some level there as well. All right, so I'll hand it off then. Thanks everyone. I'll hand it off to Minwoo Kim and Liz Heil.
Thank you, Dr. Odie. So hi, I'm Minwoo and I'm here with Liz. We are part of the DEI Coordinator Hiring Committee. For the past several months, a group of staff, faculty, graduate students, and undergraduate students have been working to develop a DEI vision statement, which just outlines our values and goals for the department. And our main goal was to also develop a position description for the DEI coordinator. And something we are proud of is that this position has been recently approved by the university, despite the hiring freeze that is going on.
Yeah, so we're now currently working towards developing a recruiting strategy based off of that vision statement and coordinator position outline that Minwoo touched on. And so we're currently generating a set of interview questions and an interviewing strategy that will allow us to gauge the experience, the expertise, and also the prospective vision for our department of the interviewed candidates. And then the questions would also hopefully encapsulate the key job duties that we've outlined through our planning. So our challenge to you all is to share the job posting as soon as it's available and help spread the word. And with that, I'll introduce Rachel, who will give the graduate program update.
Thanks so much, Liz and Minwoo. Really appreciate it. Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Jorgensen. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the administrator for the department. I'm here sort of representing the graduate program as a proxy, since both Sarah Erickson, our graduate program coordinator, and Professor Sarkar are out on parental leave right now. But I'm very happy and excited to be here and to share on their behalf some of the developments and updates on the grad side of things. So a few things we're proud of. In early fall 2020, we launched our first PhD mentoring program as a way for students and research staff to enhance their academic and social engagement across different labs within the department and also across different student career stages. So we have around 40 PhD students participating in that program now, broken up into small groups of mentors and mentees. We haven't yet done a formal assessment of that program to see how things are going, but the anecdotal feedback so far has been really good. Another thing that we're proud of is some of the grad recruiting outreach that both Sarah and Kasim have done over this last year with societies and organizations that serve and support underrepresented groups in STEM. So Sarah hosted a booth at the virtual SHEP Grad Fair, Society for Hispanic Professional Engineers, in the fall. And Kasim also reached out individually to around 60 different chapters of NSBE, the National Society of Black Engineers, SHEP, and also SWE, the Society for Women Engineers. So reached out to around 60 chapters across the country, and then some of those groups followed up with him for info sessions and other virtual events that he hosted with them. And another thing we're proud of is our Creating Inclusive Cohorts Fellows program. I know we'll be hearing from them directly later on, but just some background for people who aren't familiar with what that program is. Creating Inclusive Cohorts is a UMN graduate school funded training program that awards fellowship funding to departments for recruitment and retention of students from underrepresented communities and diverse backgrounds, with the goals of developing and sustaining greater diversity in our graduate student body and also increasing graduation rates for these students. So Kasim has been serving as the mentor for that group of fellows this year. And like I said, you'll be hearing more from them directly about some of the activities that they've been involved with. And then initiatives we're working towards, the really big one here, and it is a really big one, is a reevaluation of admissions practices. Working to ensure that our selection criteria are not perpetuating systems of bias and privilege, are in fact hopefully dismantling those systems that do remain pretty entrenched in higher ed still. So Professor Sarkar has been working and will continue to be working with a faculty member in I believe the psychology department here at the U, to try and figure out how we can identify and capture new, more equitable selection criteria that might be even better predictors of success in grad school than the ones that have traditionally been used but are less quantifiable. If we want information on an applicant's creativity or resilience, for example, how do we prompt them and their recommendation writers to ensure that that information is conveyed in the application and can be evaluated by the admissions committee in a really consistent way? How do we conduct interviews that will get at those characteristics while also ensuring uniformity and without introducing bias into the interview process? So a big, big ongoing, possibly never-ending project But that is kind of the next big thing that we are working towards. And then our challenge to the community is, in your capacity as a researcher, read a paper on overcoming bias in research and think about how you can apply that to the work that you do. There's a lot of literature out there on racial disparities in health research, also about the role that racism has played in the history of medical research. But also there's information out there, not just in bias in how research is conducted, but also in how research is reviewed and cited. And so thinking about and reading about how you can promote and elevate BIPOC voices within the body of STEM research in your capacity as a researcher. So with that, I will pass things along to Laura Essig, who is our undergraduate program coordinator. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Essig. I am the undergraduate program coordinator. I work closely with the director of undergraduate studies, Chun Wong. Regarding the undergraduate program, something we're proud of, the few faculty who teach the 2000 and 3000 level courses have started these informal anti-racist teaching circles, sharing circles where they share information about anti-racist teaching practices. Initiatives that we're working towards. So something that we're looking at is a more equitable process into the admission to major. So as many of you know, students are not directly admitted into our major when they're admitted to the university. So there is a process that they have to go through, and how can we make that more equitable for students? And that another initiative that we're working on is recruitment and outreach to diverse communities. So I know that Chun has been working with the North Star STEM Alliance, which is an organization that focuses on getting underrepresented students into STEM programs, and not only just recruiting them into those programs, but making sure they're successful so they actually graduate with a STEM degree. And Chun has been working with them on how we can recruit students to come to University of Minnesota for biomedical engineering. And a challenge to the community, obviously supporting our undergraduate students so everyone can succeed, not only with COVID, but kind of going back to if we find a student, a high school student who we think would be really successful in our major, how can we make sure that they are connected to people at the university to support them through the admission process, into the major, and ultimately be successful in our program. Another challenge that kind of goes in with that is we are working in systems within systems, right? So just because we think a student should be admissible to the university does not mean that could actually happen. So how can we build partnerships to make that seamless and to make sure that students are supported? So with that, I will hand it over to Heather and Sam for the DEI Alliance.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sam Boland. I'm a second-year PhD student in the Alfred Lab, and I'm a member of the DEI Alliance, as well as the vice president of BMEGS.
Hi, everyone. I'm Heather Bomberger. I'm a fifth-year PhD candidate in David Wood's lab, and I am also a member of the DEI Alliance. And so Sam and I are going to be giving an update on the BME DEI Alliance today. And so what the DEI Alliance is, it's a grassroots organization made up of faculty, staff, and students, all committed to enhancing diversity, equity, and inclusion within our department. And we do that by organizing educational events and dialogues, and also advocate for a departmental policy change that promote all of these goals. So the Alliance was started back in 2019 with just 8 first and founding members, many of which are still very active within the group. And over the past year, we've had a big boom in membership, and we are now at a total of 41.
Although biomedical engineering has made great strides in approaching gender equity at the undergraduate level, this is an organization or a field that is still largely dominated by white men, and that's due in part to racist policies and practices. As members of the DEI Alliance, we're committed to being actively anti-racist, and we really care about creating spaces to have critical conversations about racial discrepancies in our field. And that's one of the reasons why we work so hard to organize this annual meeting, so that all of the members of our community can be made aware of the various ways they can get involved in DEI initiatives. That's also why we launched our first iteration of a diversity, equity, and inclusion webpage on the department website, so that members outside of our community, such as prospective students or just members of the greater Minneapolis community, can learn about our values and the steps we're taking to become a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive department.
So a few goals that and initiatives we're working towards over this next upcoming year. First, we want to expand our reach. So of our active members, about 75% of them are all graduate students. And so we really want to make sure that we are representing, listening to, and including voices from all populations across our department. So one way we are trying to do this is by centering specific voices during our monthly sharing circle. For example, last sharing circle, we centered staff voices, and this next sharing circle, we will be centering postdoc and researcher voices. So next, as Minwoo and Liz mentioned a few minutes ago, we will be hiring a new DEI coordinator very soon. And so the Alliance is really working towards coming up with a plan for that DEI coordinator, something that is structured yet loose, so that they can come in feeling supported with that structure, and yet free enough to be able to use their expertise and do what they see is best. And lastly, we are working, as has been alluded to a couple times now, we are working with leadership to reevaluate those admission processes to make sure that we can level the playing field as much as possible.
Our challenge to you after this meeting is to click the link at the bottom of this slide to join the Alliance by becoming a part of our email list. And we also encourage you to follow the UMN BME DEI Twitter account. And lastly, we encourage you to attend our next monthly sharing circle. Thanks for listening to us, and I'd like to invite Sophie Gibbons of the Graduate Women in Biomedical Engineering to present next.
Hi, I'm Sophie Gibbons. I'm the president of Graduate Women in Biomedical Engineering. I'm also a member of the DEI Alliance and one of the graduate student coordinators. So we've been around for a while, the Graduate Women in Biomedical Engineering, and we've kind of became a really big part of the department and the community in the department. And there's so many things that we're proud of. I'm really proud of our community outreach initiatives that target elementary schools, getting children excited about STEM, as well as outreach that targets older members of the community, kind of increasing basic science education, such as market science and the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. We also do various tours around industries such as Medtronic, Boston Scientific, 3M, allowing all members of the community, women, underrepresented minorities, and just anyone involved in BME to get an idea of industry in the Twin Cities. We have mentorship among women to create a strong community among women in our department as underrepresented, as a historically underrepresented group. And then something I'm most proud of recently is starting a book club that highlights themes of women and underrepresented groups in STEM in medicine. And so our most recent title was Medical Apartheid, the dark history of medical experimentation on African Americans from colonial times to now. It was a very dark but impactful and important book to be educated on as, you know, a white scientist in STEM. And we've also read How to Be an Anti-Racist, as well as doing harm about gender biases. And we invited Maya Dusenberry, the author of that book, to give a talk. And so I'm really proud of those initiatives. And I think that what we're really working towards is becoming a more queer and BIPOC inclusive feminist space, and just really acknowledging how exclusive feminist movements have been in the past and educating ourselves on that, especially in a program that is historically white. I think that's just really important and something we're always working towards. And I think that our challenge to the community is to just really get informed. Like when you learn more about this stuff, it's so easy to become really passionate about it and just like fired up and like want to make some sort of change, because we really do have the power to make that change, just even being in a higher academic institution. And so come join our book club. Abby, her email is listed right there, is the woman to reach out to get added to that list, and everyone's welcome. And I'm going to pass on to Indy, our BME graduate students rep.
Thanks, Sophie. Hi, everyone. It's nice to see everyone. I'm Indy. I'm a third-year graduate student, a PhD student in Dr. Hubert Lim's lab. And I recently took over as president of the BMEGS group, the Biomedical Engineering Graduate Students. This was a group formerly known as Colloquium, where we hosted sort of this research seminar series where students could come and practice their presentation skills for conferences, thesis talks, preliminary exams, et cetera. And they could get feedback on not just their presentation skills and their science, but also how to spot biases in their research, how they interpret research, and even their own results as well. And so the idea of the BMEGS group is to sort of expand something past just Colloquium, which of course we're proud of and we're going to continue to host, but also to introduce some of the additional initiatives that we're working towards. A big one recently has been addressing the mental health needs of graduate students. And one of our key events was a seminar hosted by Matt Hansen, who we brought in, who's the assistant director of the mental health clinic at Boynton. And one of the biggest things that I personally and a lot of the students took away from that presentation was that even these mental health issues are a DEI issue as well. You know, a lot of things that Matt explained were that these issues can affect communities of people of color and unrepresented minorities in disproportionate ways, you know, and sometimes even in invisible ways, you know, not just the treatment, but also the even diagnosis has heavy biases sometimes against people of color and other communities. And so that was a really productive conversation. A lot of our students ended up being in the, some of our members, ended up being in the mental health driving committee that worked with the administration to try to tackle some of these issues. We're also hosting social events for, you know, some of the missing social engagement that's been going on with nobody getting to get together. But we're also trying to incorporate DEI values in those social events as well. We have an upcoming sort of Black history, more celebration of contribution of Black Americans to the culture and society. And so we'll be having that as like a sort of a trivia event next week. And we also have more local community outreach initiatives that I'll be sending more announcements and details about in the coming semester. And of course, my challenge to the community is also sort of something I'm echoing other people, but it can't be understated to get to know the people in your academic community. You know, when we have a department where everyone feels supported by one another and if we feel that we're invested in other people's success, that's gonna help our entire department sort of across the board. You know, it just sort of ups everyone's productivity in every way. And with that, I'll introduce Josefa, who is our first year liaison actually for BMEGS, but today he'll be talking to us about the CIC group.
Thanks for the introduction, Indy. I'm Josefa Hussein. I'm a first year PhD student in the program, originally from Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm one of the CIC fellows. I've had a great, amazing opportunity to be a part of this group of individuals. So something that we're really proud of, for those of you who had the opportunity to attend, was our journal club, where we discussed an article by Dr. Naomi Chesler, which kind of focused on strategies on approaching conversations in DEI, especially within BME, because it can be difficult sometimes to approach these conversations if a colleague says something that might have offended you or vice versa, how to approach that individual to kind of have a better understanding and create that inclusive community. Some key initiatives that we're working towards are hosting more journal club discussions. And the next article we are considering is about how mobile health platforms are helping bridge the divide and the health disparity among different communities. And another initiative that we're working towards is inviting guest lecturers to talk to both DEI, about both DEI and science. So please look out for Dr. Michelle Digman from UC Irvine later this semester. She'll be talking to us about her efforts in DEI at her university, as well as the science that she's been working on. And then I think our key initiative that we're actually trying to work on this year is developing our identity as an organization. Since we're pretty new, we want to kind of form an identity in BME and build off that in future years. So my challenge to the community is try to participate in new events and activities. If we keep our minds open, there's a lot to learn about the world. So it can be a little nerve-wracking to join an event, especially on Zoom, that you don't know these people at this event, but treat it as an opportunity to meet some new people and learn some new things. And with that, I'll pass it on to Shivansh, the president of BMES.
Thank you, Huzefa. Hi, everyone. My name is Shivansh, and I'm currently a student of junior standing in the undergraduate biomedical engineering program. I'm also the president of our student chapter of the Biomedical Engineering Society, which is a department-affiliated student group that serves to provide our undergraduate body with multiple avenues of academic, social, and professional programming relevant to our biomedical engineering careers. We've had a unique academic year with primarily being virtual, but have adapted quite well to provide meaningful programming. Although there are many things that we are proud of, we are very proud of our work in instituting an undergraduate lower division mentorship program focusing on underrepresented students in biomedical engineering, with goals to first, promote a sense of community and allow for students to have a space to express their concerns and ask questions, and second, to create inclusivity within the major and encourage academic relationships amongst lower and upper division BMEN students. We have and continue to work on many initiatives revolving around engaging with the undergraduate student body and building an inclusive community where all students can thrive. And this includes programming such as social events, including celebrating Black History Month, professional events, including our very own BMES Career Fair coming soon, employer informational sessions, and then we also have other outreach and community service events, and so much more. And for some departing words, our challenge to the community is that let's be there for each other. We are in unique times, and if being in the midst of a pandemic has reaffirmed anything, it is that everyone is struggling in some shape or form. With that being said, thank you for listening, and back to Sophie Givens talking about the contributions of other student groups on campus.
Hi, thank you. I just also wanted to recognize that there are so many other student groups at the University of Minnesota that you can get involved in. We highlighted BME department-specific student groups, but there are lots of science and engineering specific groups, as well as other groups to find your niche for diversity work. And so some of the student groups that we specifically have a lot of people in our department involved in is Science for All, an outreach group, as well as the Association of Multicultural Scientists, where one of our graduate student coordinators, Mulaney Young, actually serves as president. And they will be hosting the How to Be an Ally workshop for BIPOC students. That is directly following this event. I also wanted to mention that there are some other groups that serve both undergraduate populations as well as graduate populations, such as the Society of Women in Engineering, OSTEM, NSBE, and SHIP that were mentioned earlier by Rachel Jurgensen as well. And now I'm going to pass back to Katie for some concluding words.
Thank you, Sophie. Thank you, Sophie. Thank you, Ephraim, for sharing at the beginning of our meeting today. Thank you to all of our presenters for taking time to prepare for this meeting. And thank you to all of you for coming and taking the time out of your day to attend this event. In closing, we have some challenges that we want to share with everyone that move sort of outside of some of the challenges that our specific presenters spoke on. The first step in DEI work is often educating yourself about systemic barriers faced by people of color in all aspects of life here in America. So one challenge you can make for yourself is to set a goal and have an accountability partner or peer that you work with to try to attend so many DEI seminars or read so many articles each month. There's a lot of great resources here at the U through the CSE D&I Alliance, as well as the Center for Educational Innovation that has a lot of pedagogy resources for our professors and TAs. Another really great goal for our community, I think, is going to be normalizing these discussions about race and racism. I have hope that in doing so, it'll be easier for us to identify microaggressions and racial biases that are occurring in our everyday lives, in our classrooms, or just in our passings, and to practice on calling in one another as opposed to calling out when these biases happen. PIs, to do this, you can try to use D&I moments at the beginning of your lectures to discuss either contributions that people of color have made to science or your field specifically, or just to highlight something in history. We also want to discuss, you can also try discussing service that you're engaged in with your students when you intro your class at the beginning of the semester. As everyone has been saying, try to attend these events with your peers, get to know one another. One of the greatest ways to overcome biases, these intrinsic biases that we're taught, is to make friends with people who are different than us. And to reach out and see how one another are doing, especially right now in this Zoom times where it's a little more difficult to just see one another. So check in on one another, attend department events. We have the department calendar linked here. And then lastly, if anything that was said today was hard to hear, or if while you're engaging in any of these DEI learning opportunities stirs up emotions or triggers you in any way, that can be a sign that sometimes the first thing we really need to do is self-reflection. Stephanie Marshall of the STEM Education Center here at the U recently said in a seminar I was attending that the first step and an ongoing thing is to do the me search. Not just the research. You really need to be looking at how you play into white supremacy and how you are engaged in various racial biases and structures that are oppressing people of color. This is often the first step and can be really important to do and is integral in doing this work. Anyways, I think with that, we have a word cloud. Heather, if you want to switch to the next slide for me. So these are some of the words that you guys came up with today while we were giving our presentations. And as Annie, who was putting this together for us, said here at the bottom, is together we can make this type of environment happen. So with that, we thank you for attending, and we want to open the floor to any comments. In 15 minutes, we're going to be moving to the panel to support BIPOC students. But until then, we have an open floor as a community to have an open dialogue. You can type in the chat, you can raise your hand and unmute, whatever you want.
We also just unmute and talk. Is that allowed?
That's perfect. Whatever you want, Mary Penn.
Sweet. What do you think it would be possible to maybe have a place where we could have a list of all the books that have been gone over in the different book clubs? So if somebody can't make it to the book club or is late to the party, it's like, oh, what are the books that we've read before? So they could like have a list of, here's a reading list of something to like a place to start, you know?
Definitely. The DEI Alliance webpage, we're talking about adding kind of a living document, Google Doc that people in the department can have access to that will have all the challenges we listed today, as well as resources like that. But we hadn't specifically spoken about putting the books on there, and I think that's a great idea. So we'll be sure to add that as well.
Another thing that could be really cool as far as the website goes and as far as living document goes, I don't know how difficult this would be to implement in code for websites, but if you could have it where like a daily challenge or recommendation would come up on the website. Like if you ever go to the website, it'll just be like on the first page right there being like, hey, daily challenge, here's this question or whatever. So people will be forced to see it if they ever go to this website, not have to look for that Google Doc, you know?
Yeah, I like that idea, or even like an email blast you can sign up for that comes from the department. That's a good thought. We'll have to talk to, I believe, Heather, I don't remember who the website manager is, but we can definitely talk about that.
It's a committee. We
Michelle.
can talk. Yeah. Oh, Michelle
Michelle.
is the staff person, but yeah, she's also out on parental leave right now. But the committee has it noted.
And then I just want to highlight something Sophie said in the chat for people who are maybe listening along, is that GWBME has a library of the books that we've read for loaning out to anyone who would like to read them. So you can contact the book club as well if you would like any of the previously read books.
It would also be cool if you had like possible events that you could participate in on the DEI website that goes to all of the different programs that we talked about today, or that were talked about today. I didn't talk about them. I wasn't a presenter. But the ones that were talked about today that I didn't know about half of them.
Yeah, I learned about some new ones too. Yeah, so I think right now there's an effort to make a kind of a department-wide calendar. I don't know if there is a calendar specifically for groups in STEM. I know that there is a kind of a union website, but I don't know if they have a calendar. But yeah, I think that that could be useful as well. Yes, so Judith asked if the recording and slide deck will be available as a sharing resource. Definitely. We're going to put a link to these slides as well as a recording of today's meeting on our website as well. And also probably email them out to make sure that anybody who wasn't able to attend is able to see the meeting and engage with us offline. Ooh, Ryan asked a really good question. So Ryan asked how to encourage industry to be more inclusive and diverse. In talking with former students, there seems to be an opportunity gap, particularly with internships where underrepresented groups don't have access to the same opportunities, particularly in encouraging, in encouraging high school students to shadow or intern or to learn about BME medical fields, which is, I agree, I think a huge first step in making the college more diverse and inclusive. I wonder if either Dr. Ogle, who's worked a little bit with industry partners, might be able to comment on this, or if Dr. Odie has any thoughts in particular. I agree, I think those are huge first steps. I know that Dr. Ogle has spoken a little bit about mentorship with local high schools. But
Right, I think that's a really great point, Ryan. And I think that, you know, you might not know that we have an industrial advisory board for our department that's made up of many companies, representatives from many companies across the city. And when I first brought the sort of request for DEI coordinator, many of them are interested in being involved, and they all recognize the gap that you're talking about. And I think that we, by setting forth a strategic plan and providing them with avenues can help make that easier. And so I think it's a partnership, and I'm hoping that we continue to build that. I think their initial investment in us is a sign that they want to be engaged, but like us sometimes, and also like them, sustained effort and staying on track and holding each other accountable is really challenging. And so I think if we hold each other accountable, that's when we're going to be strongest. And that's what I see happening going forward. I've already seen it in this first step, and I know that there's interest there. So good point, and we are working toward it. Let's keep doing it.
I don't have much to add to Brenda's been really well connected to the industry through the IAB and other ways. And I think what I see happening is we can, you know, they're engaged in a lot of these things too, so they can raise the bar in their space. So that challenges us to raise the bar in our space, which then challenges them. And this is how we challenge each other and in a mutually supportive way to affect change. And I'll just mention one more thing, which is there is also the Institute for Engineering and Medicine, which is meant to facilitate collaborative research across the university involving engineering and medicine. And John Bischoff is the director, and he's also a BME faculty member, and he's made significant commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion. And John just popped up here just like that. So John, do you want to say anything about IM and the Inspire component of IM?
Sure. Yeah, I'll just say a couple words. Thanks for including me in the discussion, and I'm sorry I ran late. I got a bunch of calls I was juggling. Yeah, we're really excited in IEM to have an initiative in this area. And, you know, Dave is running one of our, what we call pillars in the research area. Rhonda Franklin, who's the only African-American woman in CSE as faculty, is one of the leaders in the Inspire area. And Chris Pennell, who leads similar activities in the Cancer Center, is a co-lead. And we have been working in high schools for the last couple of years, basically working off of a network that was built by Ken Rosen and Yoji Shimizu, who runs the MD PhD program throughout the state, and trying to pull in you know, folks from rural Minnesota, tribal regions, urban, suburban areas, and it's been a great success. And now we're kind of building it out to engage with community colleges and go back even into middle school through the NSF ERC that we have, as well through IEM. So I could keep going on. I'm super excited about it. Rhonda and Chris are fantastic leaders. Dave has also been lending his voice to this, as has Brenda. So I would just encourage you all to check out Inspire. You can go to our website and check it out, or you can reach out to Rhonda and Chris if you have ideas, or you can go through Brenda, Dave, or myself, and we'll communicate your ideas. So super excited to be part of the conversation, and kudos to Brenda for leading this. Thank you.
Thank you to each of you for weighing in on that. It also looks like Dr. Natoff has linked some opportunities for outreach for the summer for students as well. And they need labs to offer these opportunities. So these are Eureka, which I believe is with the YWCA, potentially.
Yeah, but we have a chapter, somehow it's affiliated with you, and they do programs where they bring groups of kids through the U during the summer, and they're really fun. It's a really great program. They really focus on kids who have an interest in science, not necessarily those who are the very top of their classes, to really promote. And I really like that, because if we're only focusing on the students who are straight A students, it's not going to create diversity. And so I really like this program a lot. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for BME to help out with that a lot. So I encourage you to reach out and get involved in that. I've also participated in Inspire last year, and it was amazing to see how many students they brought in, and the presentations were fantastic, and the kids were really jazzed and enthusiastic afterwards. So I think it really is an inspiring program, and I think it's going to be, everybody should participate in that if they can get a chance. And then the other thing I wanted to put in is GEM is a program that supports BIPOC students, and Medtronic has identified 2 students and has provided scholarships in the neural engineering space. One is applied to the neuroscience program, and one's applied to the BME masters. So we hope to keep that program going and foster it. They also provide their those students with an internship opportunity. So if you know of anybody who would be interested in that program, encourage them to apply to the GEM program, and hopefully we can get Medtronic to support. And we should also get Medtronic's other departments other than just the neuro to start supporting students, so we can expand that too. But they're, I think, pay for 2 years of tuition for the students. So. Thank you. Sorry, I just jumped in.
No, great. Thank you. That was perfect. I didn't see your hand was raised. I'm very sorry. This is my first time moderating.
Okay, that's okay.
I just had a quick thing to, I don't know, just put out there also. I feel like one sort of constituency group that we haven't really mentioned a lot, because they are notoriously difficult to figure out how to engage with consistently, is our alumni. We have so many alumni at these companies. And I know we have some alumni representation on our industrial advisory board specifically, but I would love for us to be able to get more alumni to the table to help provide some of those opportunities, like what Ryan was talking about, you know, for internship opportunities for high school students, for students within our undergraduate program or graduate program, and maybe getting them involved in some of that outreach as well, I think would be really cool. I know it is hard to reach them effectively. But I'm hoping that that's something that we as a department can get better at. It's certainly something I've been trying to get better at for the last like 12 years.
And just a shout out, Armando Mitchell, who's at Medtronic, raised the funds to actually support our DEI person in BME, and he is a BME alumni. So that is an example of where, you know, a BME alumnus has really paid off and paid back.
Great, thank you. It looks like we're coming kind of to the close here. And we also have a link that Heather posted in the chat for the BIPOC panel. So I hope that people are going to be able to join us. It's during the seminar time, which was planned on purpose so that there would be availability within some people's schedules. So hopefully as many of you are able to attend that as possible. It's a great opportunity to hear more about how we can be supporting our BIPOC students. If anyone else has anything else they'd like to say, you can come forward. But with that, I think we're going to close today's meeting, our first annual DEI meeting for the department.
I just want to say thank you to Katie for being the master of ceremonies and for the Alliance for pulling this all together. It was really a great accomplishment, I think. Just pulling together everything so that we can hear it all at once is amazing. So thank you very much. Well done.
Great. Thank you to all of our presenters.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for attending, and please feel free to join the Alliance and get engaged in any way you see fit, and see you all at the panel.